Well, good morning, class. This morning we're just going to do a brief introduction to music theory and a little bit of music appreciation. My name is Dr. Williams. I'm going to be helping you today begin this journey. The first thing we want to talk about the 5 lines and 4 spaces on which music is written. That's called a staff. Each staff typically has some type of clef sign at the beginning to let you know the names of the lines and the spaces. Usually we begin with the treble clef and the bass clef. In the treble clef, the names of the lines are E, G, B, D, and F. And when reading the clef or naming them, you start at the bottom and work your way up. For instance, if we say the second line of the treble clef is blank, okay, then the answer would be G, because that's the second line. You start at the bottom. E, G, B, D, F. The spaces between the lines also have names. Those in the treble clef are F, A, C, and E. So likewise, you begin at the bottom and work your way up. So if we say the 4th space in the treble clef, then that is E, because you work your way up. F, A, C, E. In the bass clef, the names of the lines are G, B, D, F, A. The names of the spaces, A, C, E, G. And there are little tricks that people have used to help them remember both of those. For instance, in the treble clef, a little trick that a lot of people use to help them remember the names of the lines, every good boy does fine. But there are a lot of them that you can use. If you want to make one up of your own to help you remember the names of the lines, that's fine. In the bass clef, what a lot of people use to help them remember the names of the lines, G, B, D, F, A. So they say, good boys do fine always. And a popular one in the bass clef for the spaces, A, C, E, G, a lot of people use all cows eat grass. Again, you can make up your own if you wish, whatever helps you learn the names of the lines and spaces. Now, there are other clefs as well, but for this class, we're going to stick with the treble and the bass clef. Now, we might mention movable clef some a little later on, but it's not necessary at this point. Another part of beginning music theory and understanding musicianship, these 2 things that we call a flat and a sharp. Okay, when dealing with pitch, a flat lowers the note by 1/2 step, and a sharp raises the note by 1/2 step. So for instance, this is a B, and I'm going to play B flat. So you see just a slight change. It went down by 1/2 step. A sharp, as we said, raises the pitch by 1/2 step. So for instance, this is a G, and this is G sharp. So you see just slight change there in lowering and raising the pitch. Flat lowers the note by 1/2 step, and a sharp raises the note by 1/2 step. Also important in beginning music theory are what we call chords. There are many different types of chords in music, many, okay? But the basic chord for us to begin with is a chord of 3 notes called a triad. And there are different types even in that. But basic triad is a major triad. I'm going to play a C triad for you. And in a C triad, 3 notes, you have C, E, G. Okay? That's what it is if it's a major triad. C, E, G. Okay? But if we change that to make it what we call a minor triad, then it would be C, E flat, G. So in this case, what happened was the third of that chord was lowered by 1/2 step, and that's what made it minor. Also, in music, we have things that are called dynamics. Now, when we talk about dynamics, we're basically talking about how loud or how soft the music is sung or played. Again, many different types and levels to this, and this is very subjective. What one person will say is this, another person will say is not that. So there's plenty of gray area in music, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much, because it doesn't have to be black or white. There's plenty of gray area in music, which leaves us plenty of room for creativity. And basically, we'll talk about just a few areas that people call or acknowledge as dynamic markings in music. One is pianissimo, which is usually symbolized by 2 P's, and that means very soft. Another one is piano, which is usually symbolized by the presence of 1 P, which means soft. Another one is mezzo piano, which usually uses the symbol MP, which means medium soft. Another one is mezzo forte, which means medium loud, usually symbolized by MF. Another one is forte, which means loud, usually symbolized by F. And one more, fortissimo, which means very loud, usually symbolized by 2 F's. Another area in basic musicianship is something that we call tempo. Now, tempo, in a nutshell, just has to do with how fast or how slow the music is. Again, plenty of gray area in this, which is why I love it. And we won't deal with a lot of them, just basically a few of them. One that you see a lot is the tempo largo, which usually means slow, on the slower side of slow. So some people say very slow. Another one is allegro, which typically means fast. And another one is presto, which usually means very fast. So to give you kind of a example of that, I'll do a little bit of rhythm in 4 to show you what I mean by that. So if the tempo marking is largo, then you might expect for the tempo to go something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. If the tempo is allegro, you might expect the tempo to go something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. If the tempo marking is presto, it very well could go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It just depends. So that's just a little bit of basic musicianship that will help us get started in music theory. And we'll also deal with scales and score reading and a lot of other things involved in music theory as well. Okay, so now we'll change gears a little bit to kind of think in terms of music appreciation or musicology, which is basically the study of music in time, different genre, etc. Again, a wide range of things here that we could deal with. So today, I just chose one particular genre to talk about because you probably know a great deal about it already. So this will just kind of be a summary. So the genre that I wanted to talk to you about today is opera. Opera is pretty much a story set to music. And we usually think about it in terms of classical music. That term opera is basically the plural of the word opus. Now, opus is another term that we often see in music that means work or piece. And when you think about it, that is what an opera is. It's a series of pieces or a string of pieces put together to tell a story. Those other elements that we talked about already, tempo, note values, staff, dynamics, all of that you find in opera. And so it is singing primarily accompanied by instruments, but it's also acting because the singers have to act as well. They have to be able to deal with props. They have to sometimes, depending on what story is being told and what scene they're doing, they also have to sing in some pretty odd positions sometimes. So all of that they study in their training and they study acting as well. Basically, in opera, you have three types of singing. Something that's called a recitative, recitative, recitative. That basically is a speech type song. So in a recitative, they may sing basically over chords, and their voice is some way halfway between singing and talking, like I'm doing right now. I'm still talking, but I'm kind of singing because there's a little bit of pitch involved in it. So that's kind of an example of recitative. Another type of solo singing in opera is something called the aria. Now, in an aria, you have a full vocal solo, usually accompanied by instruments. Another type of singing in opera is what we call the chorus. Now, usually when there are crowd scenes in an opera, that's typically done by the chorus. There are many well-known choruses in opera. One of my favorite ones is the chorus of the Hebrew slaves from Nabucco. And we'll get to more of this as the course moves along. Most operas use a type of singing that we call bel canto singing, another musical term that basically means beautiful singing. And what academics mean when they use that term, bel canto, they're speaking of that trained classical singing that you hear in classical music, opera, oratorio, cantata, etc. That's what they're speaking about when they say the term bel canto or beautiful singing. Most operas are based on some kind of secular topic, meaning something not religious, but not all of them are. There are plenty of operas that are based on religious topics as well. So you can find a wide spectrum of opera. Another misconception by a lot of people is that all opera is Italian. Now, while a lot of people consider Italy the birthplace of opera, not all say that, but a lot of people consider Italy the birthplace of opera. There are plenty of operas in a wide variety of languages. English, French, German, Russian, you name it. We can probably find an opera in those languages. And even if that wasn't the original language, so many of them nowadays have been translated to various languages. So today we were able to cover some basic musicianship, staff, note values, flats, sharps, triads, dynamics, tempo, and at least one genre that we'll be studying this semester, opera, but we'll be studying many, many others. So I hope this was a good introduction to you, and I hope you will continue to enjoy this class. I will see you next time.